The grand hall of diplomatic convergence hummed with the restless energy of 273 species in uneasy silence. Massive circular tiers descended toward a central dais, each delegation sequestered in environmental bubbles, tailored to their unique physiologies. Some breathed methane. Others basked in radiation levels that would kill their neighbors instantly. The technological marvel that allowed them all to coexist was a testament to the Galactic Accord's 12 millennia of peace. But that peace now hung by a thread. Ambassador Selena Voss stood at the edge of the human delegation's modest platform, her eyes fixed on the empty crystalline pedestal at the center of the hall. For 10,000 years, the Seldorans had occupied that position of honor and responsibility. Now they were gone, the last of their kind succumbing to a genetic deterioration that even their advanced science couldn't reverse. The galaxy was adrift without its guardians. "How much longer do we wait?" whispered Thomas Reed, the second member of Earth's three-person delegation. His military background made him impatient with diplomatic pageantry. "As long as it takes," Selena replied, her voice barely audible above the low hum of translation modules. She straightened the high collar of her ceremonial blue uniform, emblazoned with the insignia of Earth's outer colonies. "This is history unfolding, Commander." The third human representative, Senior Science Envoy Maya Takeda, studied the floating holographic displays. 273 species, each with their own proposal for succession. At current speaking rates, we'll be here for 17 standard days. 17 days of posturing and pretension? Thomas muttered. Selena suppressed a smile. She had chosen her team carefully. Thomas for his strategic mind. Maya for her brilliant, analytical capabilities. They represented humanity's best qualities, even if they sometimes lacked diplomatic subtlety. High Chancellor Omox, a gaseous entity from the Centauri clouds, floated to the central platform. Tendrils of luminescent vapor curled from its containment field as it addressed the assembly. "The Brivari delegation proposes the Quantum Collective as guardian species," announced the Chancellor, its voice translated into the standard galactic tongue. "The assembly will now hear arguments." A ripple of bioluminescent patterns flashed across the Quantan representative. A massive, translucent being, resembling an octopus crossed with a computer network. "We process 17 trillion calculations per second," the Quantan stated. "Our neural efficiency is unmatched in the known galaxy. We would calculate optimal solutions to all diplomatic conflicts with perfect impartiality." The Valerian ambassador, Zixnathi, rose from her seat. Her crystalline exoskeleton caught the light as she spoke. "The Valerian Council objects. The Quantan's processing power is impressive, but they lack physical capability. A guardian species must be able to enforce peace, not merely calculate it." "We concur," rumbled Representative Tulk of the Hive Concordance, his insectoid mandibles clicking with each syllable. "Additionally, the Quantan require constant submersion in liquid helium. This restricts their mobility in 93% of inhabited worlds." And so it went. For hours, species after species was proposed and rejected. Too slow, too violent, too pacifist, too genetically unstable, too religiously dogmatic. The perfect guardian, it seemed, did not exist. As the 7th hour of deliberations approached, a palpable despair settled over the assembly. The Seldorans had been uniquely suited to their role, physically capable, technologically advanced, philosophically committed to neutrality, and blessed with 500-year lifespans that provided crucial continuity. No single species seemed capable of filling the void they left behind. In the silence that followed, yet another failed proposal. Selena felt something shift inside her. An idea, audacious, perhaps even foolish, took root. She leaned toward her colleagues. "I'm going to propose humanity," she whispered. Maya's eyes widened. "That wasn't in our mission parameters." "Earth Central would never approve such an overreach," Thomas added, though Selena noted the spark of interest in his eyes. Earth Central is 30 light-years away, Selena replied. By the time they receive our transmission, it will be done. Sometimes forgiveness comes easier than permission. Before her colleagues could object further, Selena rose to her feet and activated her platform's request beacon. Chancellor Omox acknowledged it, with a surprised flicker of luminescence. The Assembly recognizes Ambassador Selena Voss of Earth, the Chancellor announced. Selena stepped forward, feeling the weight of countless alien gazes. The humans were newcomers to the Galactic Accord, having joined barely 2 centuries earlier. They were viewed as unpredictable, emotional, and primitive by many of the elder species. But perhaps, Selena thought, that was exactly what the Accord needed now. Esteemed delegates, she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. We have spent hours proposing species that excel in singular qualities while lacking in others. The Seldorans were exceptional because they balanced many attributes, not because they perfected anyone. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. Humanity volunteers to serve as guardian species of the Galactic Accord. The chamber erupted. Translator modules struggled to keep pace with the cacophony of objections, questions, and exclamations in 100 different languages. Some delegates laughed outright. Others registered shock through various physiological displays, color changes, electrical discharges, pheromone releases. Chancellor Omox pulsed rapidly, the equivalent of clearing its throat. Order! The Assembly will maintain order! As the commotion settled, the Valerian ambassador Zixnathi spoke first. Ambassador Voss, with respect, humanity has been part of the Accord for a mere 2 centuries. The Seldorans guided us for 10 millennia. True, Selena acknowledged. We are newcomers, but perhaps that gives us a fresh perspective. We have no ancient alliances or grudges within the Accord. Representative Tolk rose next, his compound eyes glittering. Humans are violent and unpredictable. Your historical archives document thousands of wars among your own kind. We do not deny our history, Selena replied. But consider this. Every species here evolved through competition and survival. The difference is that we remember our struggles. We keep records of our failures precisely so we can learn from them. A Meridian philosopher king floated forward on his gravity disk. Humans are emotionally volatile. Guardians must embody impartiality. Thomas Reed stood beside Selena now. With respect, emotions give us empathy. True impartiality isn't about feeling nothing. It's about understanding all perspectives. Our emotions help us do that. The objections continued for hours. Humans were too short-lived, too technologically primitive, too reproductively inefficient, too culturally diverse to present a unified front. To each criticism, the human delegation offered thoughtful responses. They didn't deny their limitations but reframed them as strengths. Their short lives meant they valued every moment. Their technological growth rate was the fastest ever recorded. Their diversity gave them adaptability. As the formal session ended for the day, Maya approached Selena with concern etched on her face. We've stirred the nest, she said. Every delegation will be analyzing Earth's history tonight, looking for reasons to reject us. Selena nodded. Let them look. We have nothing to hide. Don't we? Maya's voice lowered. What about the Mars colony uprising, the Titan secession, the asteroid belt embargo? All resolved without outside intervention, Selena replied. That's our strongest argument. Maya, we make mistakes, but we fix them ourselves. As they retreated to their assigned quarters on Orinthia Prime, Selena felt the weight of her impulsive decision. She had committed humanity to a role they had never sought, potentially antagonizing species with technologies centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. If she failed here, the consequences could be severe. Yet, something told her it was the right course. Humanity had survived extinction-level events, ice ages, plagues, and their own destructive tendencies. They had clawed their way to the stars despite overwhelming odds. Perhaps that resilience was exactly what the Accord needed now. The next morning, the human delegation arrived to find the Grand Hall already buzzing with activity. Overnight, alliances had shifted. Some species that had scoffed at humanity's offer now seemed curious. Others that had been neutral were now openly hostile. The Valerian ambassador Zixnathi approached them before the session began. Her crystalline form shimmered with subtle color variations that Maya's translator identified as indicating thoughtfulness. "Ambassador Voss," she said, "my delegation reviewed your species' historical archives. Your people survived numerous extinction-level events." "We're stubborn that way," Selena replied with a small smile. "Perhaps stubbornness has its merits," Zixnathi conceded. "The Valerians have questions, but we are open to your proposal." It was a small victory, but significant. The Valerians were respected for their judicious diplomacy. Their tentative support would sway others. As the formal session resumed, however, the opposition had organized. Representative Tolk led a coalition of 15 species in presenting a unified front against humanity's candidacy. "The Hive Concordance has compiled evidence of human unpredictability," Tolk announced. Exhibit A. Humans regularly crash ceremonial spacecraft into celestial bodies for what they term scientific knowledge. "Those are called probes," Maya explained. "They help us understand planetary composition." Exhibit B, Tolk continued, undeterred. "Humans wage interplanetary sports wars, investing massive resources in competitions with no diplomatic value." Thomas actually laughed at this. "The Olympics promote cultural exchange and peaceful competition. They're celebrations, not wars." Exhibit C. Human decision-making is influenced by arbitrary chemical reactions in their digestive systems. They become irrational when hungry. The debate continued in this vein throughout the morning. Each accusation revealed more about how aliens perceived humanity than about humans themselves. They were seen as chaotic, emotional, and impulsive, qualities that terrified species evolved for logic and order. During the midday recess, Maya approached Selena with new data. "I've been analyzing the voting blocks," she said. "We have 27 species leaning in our favor, 94 against us, and the rest undecided." "Not ideal," Selena admitted. "It gets worse," Maya continued. "The observational outposts near the Cygnus Arm have detected unusual quantum fluctuations, the kind typically associated with Vorath fleet movements." Selena felt a chill run through her. The Vorath were a silicon-based collective intelligence that existed at the far reaches of known space. They rarely interacted with the Accord, and when they did, it was never peaceful. "How long do we have?" she asked. "If it is the Vorath, and if they're headed this way, 18 hours, maybe less." Selena made a quick decision. "Tell no one yet. We need more information before we cause a panic." The afternoon session brought little progress. The opposition to humanity's candidacy had solidified, though they had yet to propose a viable alternative. As the day's debates wound down, Chancellor Omox announced a procedural recess. "The Assembly will reconvene tomorrow to continue evaluations," the Chancellor declared. "All delegations are reminded that the selection of a guardian species requires a 70% majority." As delegates filtered out of the hall, a junior aide rushed to Maya's side, whispering urgently. Maya's expression darkened as she turned to Selena. "Confirmation from 3 independent outposts," she said quietly. "It's definitely a Vorath fleet. 15 vessels, quantum-locked in attack formation. They've accelerated. New arrival estimate, 6 hours." Thomas swore under his breath. "Why here? Why now?" "The Seldorans kept them at bay for millennia," Selena replied. "Perhaps they've been waiting for this moment, when the Accord is leaderless and vulnerable." "We need to alert the Assembly," Maya urged. Selena nodded. Find Chancellor Omox, privately. Within 30 minutes, the Emergency Council, consisting of the Chancellor and representatives from the 7 elder species, had convened in a secure chamber. Maya presented the evidence of the approaching Vorath fleet with clinical precision. Standard defense protocols require assembly of the Accord fleet, announced the Meridian representative. But our nearest vessels are days away from Orinthia Prime. The Quantum Collective can deploy a computational defense grid, offered their delegate. But it would take at minimum 11 hours to establish. We do not have 11 hours, Chancellor Omox reminded them, its vaporous form pulsing with agitation. The Vorath have never attacked a diplomatic gathering before, Zixnathi noted. Why start now? Because we're all here, Selena realized aloud. 273 species representatives in one location. If they strike now, they could cripple the entire Accord in a single blow. A heavy silence fell over the room. Evacuation is our only option, declared Tulk. We must scatter to minimize casualties. Evacuation would take longer than the time we have, Tomas countered. And it would mean abandoning Orinthia Prime and its inhabitants. What do you propose instead, human? Tulk's mandibles clicked in irritation. Selena exchanged glances with her team before addressing the council. Let us handle this. You. The Meridian representative's gravity disk wobbled, with what translated as incredulity. What can 3 humans do against 15 Vorath vessels? Not just us, Selena clarified. Humanity. This is our chance to prove our worth as guardians. Let us try to resolve this crisis before panic spreads through the assembly. Chancellor Omox pulsed thoughtfully. What do you require? Access to all communication arrays, Maya said. And complete technical specifications of Vorath quantum architecture from previous encounters. And, Thomas added, a single ship with interception capabilities. The council deliberated briefly before Chancellor Omox rendered its decision. You have 5 hours. If you fail, we implement emergency evacuation protocols. As they left the council chamber, Thomas leaned toward Selena. Please tell me you have a plan. Half of one, she admitted. Maya has the other half. In the hastily established human command center, Maya pored over the technical data on Vorath ships. Fascinating, she murmured. Their entire fleet functions as a distributed quantum consciousness. Each vessel is both independent and part of the collective. How does that help us? Thomas asked, reviewing the specifications of the interceptor craft they'd been granted. Their strength is their weakness, Maya explained. Quantum entanglement makes them incredibly coordinated. But it also means they process information as a unified system. Selena caught on immediately. Like a single brain, vulnerable to the same cognitive disruptions. Exactly. Maya's fingers flew across the holographic interface. The Vorath operate on quantum logic. They're essentially living quantum computers. And what's the one thing no computer can process? A paradox, Selena realized. Not just any paradox, Maya continued. A specifically calibrated quantum paradox, transmitted on their own communication frequencies. It would be like forcing a human brain to divide by 0, over and over. You want to give the Vorath a headache, Thomas summarized with a grin. I want to give them a migraine, Maya corrected. One that lasts long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The next 3 hours were a blur of activity. While Maya reconfigured the communication arrays to broadcast on Vorath frequencies, Tomas prepared the interceptor ship. Selena, meanwhile, had the unenviable task of briefing the full assembly without causing widespread panic. She stood before the hastily reconvened delegates, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien gazes. Many were already aware that something was wrong, though few knew the specifics. Esteemed delegates, she began, I must inform you that a Vorath fleet is approaching Orinthia Prime. They will arrive in approximately 2 hours. The chamber erupted into chaos. Translation modules struggled to keep up with the cacophony of alarmed communications. Please, Selena raised her voice. We have a plan to address this threat, but I must ask for your trust and cooperation. Trust humans? Tilk's voice cut through the din. Your species proposed itself as guardians mere hours ago, and now we face annihilation. The timing is coincidental, Selena insisted, and perhaps fortunate. This crisis gives us an opportunity to demonstrate our capabilities. What capabilities? Demanded a Dortian representative. You possess no quantum weaponry, no phase shift barriers. What can humans possibly do against the Vorath? Selena took a deep breath. We can think differently. The Vorath expect logic and fear. We offer neither. Despite continued objections, Chancellor Omox supported the human plan, if only because no better alternative presented itself. As the assembly fell into uneasy deliberation, Selena returned to the command center. Maya looked up from her work, exhaustion evident in her eyes. It's ready, she said. I think. You think? Thomas raised an eyebrow. I've created a quantum paradox transmitter that should disrupt Vorath cognitive functions, Maya explained. But there's no way to test it without an actual Vorath ship. Then we'll test it live, Selena decided. Thomas, how soon can you launch? The interceptor is prepped and waiting. But Selena, he hesitated. This plan requires getting dangerously close to the Vorath fleet. One way close. She understood his meaning immediately. You're proposing a suicide mission? I'm proposing a calculated risk, he corrected. The transmitter needs to be within certain range parameters. That puts the pilot in the line of fire. Then I'll go, Selena said without hesitation. No, Tomas shook his head firmly. You're needed here. The assembly responds to you. I'm the military attaché. This is literally my job. Before Selena could argue further, Maya intervened. There's another option. We can modify the orbital communication arrays to broadcast the paradox signal. It won't be as focused, but it avoids risking any lives. Will it work? Selena asked. 73% probability, Maya replied. Not ideal, but better than losing our commander. Selena made her decision. Reconfigure the arrays. Tomas, keep the interceptor ready as backup. We have, she checked the chronometer, 87 minutes until contact. The next hour passed in tense preparation. Throughout the Grand Hall, delegates prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. Some species prayed to their deities. Others entered meditative states. A few with natural defensive abilities positioned themselves to protect the more vulnerable. In the human command center, Maya finalized the paradox transmitter, while Selena coordinated with Chancellor Omox. The countdown to Vorath arrival ticked steadily downward. With 15 minutes remaining, Ambassador Zixnathi entered the command center. Her crystalline form vibrated with what the translator identified as nervous energy. The Valerian Council has a request, she said without preamble. Allow me to assist with your defensive preparations. Selena eyed her curiously. May I ask why? Because I believe you were right, Zixnathi admitted. The Accord needs guardians who think differently. Whether or not we survive the next hour, the Valerians wish to be counted among humanity's allies. It was a significant gesture, the first formal alliance offered to humanity by an elder species. Selena accepted with a grateful nod, and Zixnathi immediately began assisting Maya with final calibrations. 5 minutes before the Vorath's scheduled arrival, the entire assembly gathered in the Grand Hall, not to evacuate or hide, but to stand together, a unified front against a common threat. It was an unprecedented show of solidarity in the Accord's long history. Selena stood with Chancellor Omox at the central dais, watching the massive viewing screens that displayed the star-filled space around Orinthia Prime. Maya and Zixnathi monitored the paradox transmitter from a control station nearby, while Thomas remained on standby in the interceptor. 1 minute to contact, Maya announced, her voice steady despite the tension. Selena addressed the assembly one last time. Whatever happens next, Remember this moment. 273 species standing as one. This is what guardianship means. Not perfection, but unity in the face of threat. 30 seconds, Maya called out. Chancellor Omox pulsed a formal acknowledgement. The Accord recognizes humanity's effort, regardless of outcome. Vorath fleet detected, Maya reported. 15 vessels in quantum-locked formation. Range, optimal for transmission. Selena gave the order. Activate the paradox transmitter. Maya and Zixnathi worked in perfect synchronization, initiating the broadcast. For a tense moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, on the viewing screens, something remarkable occurred. The Vorath ships, massive crystalline structures that resembled geometric snowflakes, began to shimmer and reconfigure. They had entered the system in perfect formation, but now they moved erratically, as if confused. It's working, Maya breathed. The paradox is disrupting their quantum cognition. The assembly watched in stunned silence as the mighty Vorath fleet, terror of the galactic rim, came to a complete standstill just outside Orinthia's orbit. The ships continued to reconfigure, attempting to process the unsolvable paradoxes flooding their collective consciousness. They're stuck in a processing loop, Maya explained, her eyes fixed on the data streaming across her console. Every time they attempt to resolve the paradox, it regenerates with new parameters. For nearly an hour, the Vorath remained frozen in space, their ships pulsing with internal light as they struggled against the cognitive trap. Then, without warning, they began to retreat, slowly at first, then accelerating back toward the galactic rim. The Grand Hall erupted in celebration. Species that had evolved on opposite ends of the galaxy embraced or exchanged their cultural equivalents of relief. Even Representative Tulk's mandibles clicked in what his translator rendered as reluctant admiration. Selena felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to find Tomas, who had returned from the interceptor bay. It worked, he said simply. No casualties, no shots fired. Maya's paradox saved us all, Selena replied. No, Tomas corrected. Human thinking saved us. No other species would have thought to confuse the Vorath rather than fight them. In the days that followed, the tone of succession debates shifted dramatically. The Vorath incident had demonstrated something crucial about humanity. They approached problems differently than the elder species. And sometimes, different was exactly what was needed. Not all opposition disappeared. Representative Tulk and his coalition continued to raise concerns about human impulsivity and their relative newcomer status. But many former critics now spoke in humanity's favor, citing their creative solution to the Vorath threat. 3 months after Selena's initial proposal, the Accord held its formal vote on humanity's application for guardianship. The Grand Hall hummed with anticipation as Chancellor Omox announced the results. With a majority of 71%, the Galactic Accord hereby appoints humanity as successor guardian species to the Seldorans. It was just barely over the required threshold, but it was enough. Selena stepped forward to the central dais, where a crystalline orb, the symbol of guardianship once held by the Seldorans, awaited her. On behalf of humanity, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, I accept this sacred responsibility. We do not promise perfection. We will make mistakes, but we pledge to approach each challenge with creativity, empathy, and unwavering commitment to the greater good. She lifted the orb, which glowed with an inner light at her touch. The Seldorans guided you with wisdom, born of perfect logic. Humanity offers something different. Wisdom, born of imperfection. We have faced our own extinction many times. We have warred against ourselves and come back from the brink. We understand both the heights of achievement and the depths of failure. The orb pulsed brighter as she continued. This gives us a unique perspective. We see value in chaos as well as order. We find strength in diversity rather than uniformity. And most importantly, We never stop trying to be better than we are. The assembly listened in respectful silence as humanity formally assumed its new role. Even those who had opposed their appointment acknowledged the significance of the moment. The galaxy had entered a new era. Later that evening, as celebrations continued throughout Orinthia Prime, Selena found a quiet moment on a balcony overlooking the planet's famous crystal forests. Maya joined her there, carrying 2 glasses of a bioluminescent beverage popular among the diplomatic corps. "To guardianship," Maya said, offering 1 glass to Selena. "To proving ourselves worthy of it," Selena replied, as they clinked their glasses together. "You know," Maya mused, gazing up at the star-filled sky, "we're going to need to establish an entirely new diplomatic structure. Rotation schedules for human representatives, training protocols, communication systems spanning hundreds of light years." "Already thinking about the logistics?" Selena smiled. "That's why you're on my team." "Our first priority should be addressing the Vorath," Maya continued. "They retreated, but they'll adapt to our paradox strategy. We need new approaches." "Actually," Selena said, "I've been thinking about that. The Vorath didn't attack until the Seldorans were gone. That suggests they feared or respected the Seldorans enough to keep their distance. And now they'll need to evaluate humanity," Maya realized. "Exactly. So instead of preparing for the next confrontation, what if we opened a dialogue? The Vorath have avoided communication for millennia, but they've never faced humans before." Maya considered this. Reaching out to a hostile collective intelligence that just tried to destroy us? That's either brilliantly forward-thinking or completely insane. "Maybe both," Selena admitted with a laugh. "But that's humanity's approach, isn't it? We try the insane option because sometimes it works, when nothing else will." As they spoke, a message arrived from Earth Central, the first response to Selena's report about humanity's new role. Maya read it aloud. "Ambassador Voss, your unilateral commitment of human resources to accord guardianship exceeds authorized parameters. Return to Earth immediately for debriefing and potential disciplinary action." Selena sighed. "I expected as much." "What will you do?" Maya asked. "Go back. Explain. Convince them that this is humanity's greatest opportunity." Selena gazed out at the alien landscape, so far from Earth, yet now connected to it by a bond of responsibility. Earth Central sees this as a burden. They need to understand it's a gift, a chance to become something greater than we've ever been. And if they don't agree, then we remind them of our own history. Humans have always been at their best when facing impossible challenges. Selena raised her glass again. "To the impossible." "To the impossible," Maya echoed, as Orinthia Prime's 3 moons rose above the horizon, casting multicolored light across the crystal forests. Selena contemplated the journey ahead. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and near-extinction events. They had clawed their way to the stars despite overwhelming odds. Now they faced their greatest challenge yet, proving themselves worthy of the galaxy's trust. They would stumble. They would make mistakes. But in the chaotic, creative, resilient spirit that defined their species, they would never stop trying. The last guardian species had gone extinct. Humanity had volunteered to replace them, and the galaxy would never be the same. Maya gazed at the crystal forest below, its formations glinting in the moonlight. "Do you think the Seldorans knew this would happen? That humans would step up when they were gone?" "Who knows?" Selena replied. "Maybe they saw something in us that we're only beginning to see in ourselves." In the grand hall behind them, representatives of 273 species continued their celebrations, no longer separated by environmental bubbles, but mingling in the common areas, their translation modules working overtime as they discussed the new era of human guardianship. Some remained skeptical. Others were cautiously optimistic. A few were genuinely excited. But all of them were unified in a way they hadn't been before the crisis. The Vorath threat had reminded them of what the Accord truly stood for: cooperation across the vast differences that separated their species. And humanity's unconventional response had demonstrated exactly why they might be suited for guardianship despite their youth and imperfection. "We should get back to the reception," Maya suggested. "As the face of humanity's diplomatic corps, your absence will be noticed." "In a moment," Selena said, still gazing at the alien sky. "I want to remember this feeling, this exact moment when everything changed." "For the galaxy or for humanity?" "Both," Selena replied. "We just volunteered to be responsible for the peaceful cooperation of 273 species across thousands of light years. We committed our children and our children's children to this path." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "Future generations might not thank us for that. Or they might look back and realize this was the moment humanity truly grew up." Selena turned from the view, her expression resolute. "Either way, there's no going back now." As they returned to the Grand Hall, Selena was immediately approached by Ambassador Zixnathi. The Valerian's crystalline form glittered with formal decorative enhancements for the celebration. "Ambassador Voss," she said, "the Meridians have proposed an immediate strategic alliance with humanity. The Quantum Collective is offering computational assistance for your guardian duties. And even the Hive Concordance has expressed interest in establishing direct diplomatic channels." "Representative Tolk is coming around?" Selena couldn't hide her surprise. "Let's say he's pragmatically accepting the new reality," Zixnathi replied with what translated as dry humor. The Vorath incident made an impression. Across the hall, Tomas was engaged in animated conversation with military representatives from a dozen species. His tactical expertise, once dismissed as primitive, was now being actively sought. "It's happening already," Maya observed. "The power dynamics are shifting." "Power isn't what we're after," Selena reminded her. "Partnership is—" Chancellor Omox floated toward them, its vaporous form glowing with formal ceremonial patterns. "Guardian Voss," it said, using humanity's new title for the first time. "The Council of Elders requests your presence. There are pressing matters requiring immediate attention." "Already?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "Guardianship doesn't wait for celebrations to end," Selena replied, before turning to the Chancellor. "Lead the way." As she followed Omox toward the council chamber, delegates from across the galaxy inclined their heads or performed their species' equivalent gestures of respect. Not all. Some still regarded humans with suspicion or disdain, but enough to signal a fundamental change. The Council of Elders consisted of representatives from the 7 oldest species in the Accord. They waited in a semicircle, their diverse physiologies requiring various environmental accommodations. "Guardian Voss," began the Meridian Elder, his ancient voice carrying despite its softness. "A situation has developed in the Cygnus Arm. 2 member species have entered a resource dispute that threatens to escalate into armed conflict." "The Navori and the Trelax," added the Quantum Elder, its translucent tissues pulsing with data. "Both claim mining rights to a newly discovered neutronium deposit." Selena took a deep breath. This was it, humanity's first test as guardians. "Tell me everything," she said. "And then, let's find a solution that works for both sides." For the next 6 hours, Selena worked with the Council to analyze the dispute and formulate a response. Where the Elders saw an intractable conflict between incompatible interests, she saw possibilities for compromise. Where they applied principles established over millennia, she suggested new approaches tailored to the specific situation. By morning, they had drafted a proposal that would allow both species to benefit from the neutronium deposit through a novel time-sharing arrangement that accommodated their different metabolic cycles. It wasn't perfect, but it was creative and potentially effective. As Selena finally returned to her quarters for a few hours of rest, she found Maya waiting for her, already working on a new project. "Don't you ever sleep?" Selena asked with a tired smile. "Sleep is inefficient," Maya replied, though her own exhaustion was evident. "I've been designing a new communication network for our guardianship duties. We'll need faster-than-light coordination between human representatives across the galaxy." "Add it to the list," Selena said, collapsing into a chair. "The Council just assigned us our first mediation task. We leave for the Cygnus Arm tomorrow." Maya nodded. "I heard the Navori-Trelax dispute. Thomas is already analyzing their military capabilities, just in case diplomacy fails." "It won't fail," Selena insisted. "It can't. Our first act as Guardians needs to be a success." "No pressure," Maya said with a wry smile. Selena laughed despite her exhaustion. "Only the future of human-galactic relations hanging in the balance. Nothing we can't handle." As Maya returned to her work, Selena moved to the window of their quarters. Orinthia Prime's sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows across the crystalline landscape. Somewhere out there, 273 species were watching humanity, waiting to see if they would rise to the occasion or fall short. And beyond them, at the edges of known space, the Vorath were undoubtedly analyzing their encounter, adapting, perhaps even planning their next move. The challenges ahead were immense. But as the first rays of alien sunlight touched her face, Selena felt a profound sense of purpose. This impossible task of bringing order to chaos across thousands of worlds was what humanity had been preparing for throughout its tumultuous history. They would make mistakes. They would face setbacks. But they would never stop trying to be worthy of the trust placed in them. The last guardian species had gone extinct. Humanity had volunteered to replace them. And against all odds, the galaxy had said yes.